Howdy, folks. Here we are again at Making Music Magazine, another artist spotlight. I'm Chuck Sheely, and today we are here with my good friend Jane Louie from Los Angeles, California. She is a fantastic singer. She is a classically trained pianist, not to mention a multi-instrumentalist. She's involved with theater. I think you were in a movie and all that stuff. Were you in a movie?
I think briefly for like a couple of quick things. Yeah.
Cool. She was in a movie.
Yeah.
I did not lie. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet my dear friend, Jane Louie. Hi, Jane.
Hi, it's so good to see you, Chuck.
Likewise.
We go back so far, so this is good.
I know we know each other from the days of Twigs in San Diego, where you would see a lot of people like Steve Poltz, and Jason Mraz, and one of our favorite shared groups, lesser known Bitty Bums, which was
oh my gosh. Bitty Bums, if either of you are out there, we say hello and we hope you are doing great, because I just love
watching,
you guys.
I hope they hello.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're a singer and we're here in Vocal Month, and tell us how you became a singer. How, did you fall in love? Did your parents push you into it? Somebody trick you? What?
So I was a closet singer all the way until I was like a senior in high school, because I was in choirs and all that, as a kid, and that's a cute thing to do as an extracurricular activity, but I knew my parents didn't want me to sing. And so I kept it from them, knowing that I didn't want any of that input in me, right? And so, Asian families, for my family, we really enjoyed karaoke. My dad was a big karaoke fan. And so one of the big moments I like to talk about is I never used to karaoke around them, because I didn't want to sing in front of them. I didn't want them to hear what I just idolized, these canto pop stars. One in particular, her name was Anita. Anyway, so I would get on the mic when they were out. And so there was one day when I got on the mic and they were gone, and I sang my song and I was happy. And then I was about to put my mic down and turn around, and they were standing right there. They had come home, and my dad didn't say anything. My brother stared at me and said, "Do that again." Oh no, I think it was either my dad or my brother said it. "Do that again." And I was like, okay. So I did it again. And then they didn't say a word. And I just ran upstairs afterwards. And I think that was the first time that they kind of heard me sing. And it was like senior year talent show when I did a song, with a couple of friends. But I was never I never really believed that singing was really something that I could fall in love with this much and use in the way that I do, until kind of late high school, when I was in this duo that of called Jason and Jane. And that was a big turning point for me of learning how to use my voice.
So your parents by now on board with the gift you wield?
I mean, they to be honest with you, they've never commented on my work. I mean, I can go really dark if I wanted to.
I'll be sure to pick up the amounts of comments I make then.
Because I think they didn't want me to do music. My mom still doesn't really.
So what about your classical piano thing though? Like, do they feel?
I think it's one of those things where they put you through these things to get you cultured, but this is something that you do on the side. But they don't tell you that when you're a kid, right? And so you fall in love with something and you get confused as to well, why did you give me this if you didn't
really they want you to be a doctor or something, right?
Yeah. Which is unfortunately, a usual story in many cultures. And so that was a big part of my kind of late teens, when I decided that I wanted to, do music in school, to go into a music degree. That whipped up a lot of stuff in my family dynamic. And I ended up not talking to my dad for close to a decade.
This is probably why I'm such a fan of your music. And I've always, that I feel that your art is always very authentic, and I resonate heavily with that. And for you to stand up to a situation like that and own who you are as a musician is a big thing to say. I hope the listeners are paying attention to this, because I appreciate your strength and example.
Thanks.
So.
I mean, it was both very liberating and very hard for a long time. And
Certainly.
in many ways, I'm still reeling from a lot of consequences of that, right? And but I think music, if I had to pick a thing that I built from ground up myself, you know, I think that was the deciding moment for me, was this is something that it will be mine. And I think that ownership changes you. That ownership makes you really resilient to, you know, the industry, because a lot of times in music and many industries, in arts particular, it's not, for me, it's not the music that bothers me, it's the business of music that can bother me, right? That's hard to deal with. And so but when I have that ownership of the process and making something that I can call mine, I think it gives me courage to get through the stuff that it feels like. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the process, you are always ambitious and working and thorough and above and beyond from where I sit. So tell me how your process works. Like, you know, you just released a new album called Surija, under your name Surija. Yes. And I remember seeing that you had a lot of comments about the process on that when I looked at your social media. Is that a typical process? Tell us about that and your process in general. Please. That's a big mouth.
I'll try to, I know there's a lot to say there. I think, so this is my fourth album. And for the first three, it was a very isolated process. It was just me and producer Aaron Bowen in San Diego when I was making these first three. And songwriting, lyrics, everything was myself. Because in the end, for a long time, I was a control freak and didn't believe in collaboration. I didn't know how to, and just wanted it to be mine. It was a very selfish, looking back, it was a very selfish way of looking at it, but it was the only way I felt like I could earn my voice. It's a weird thing to say, but it was like I needed this to be mine and mine alone. I think because the fight behind the scenes with my family was so hard. And so after the third album, first of all, I was tired. And it was like 2012 or something. And I was having issues in the industry. I was tired. I had this YouTube following that I really loved, but I didn't feel like I was showing like this much of me, right? Like they saw this much and they wanted everything from here. It was hard to go outside the circle. There was this expectation, and I didn't know how to keep up with the kind of branding that I had given them, basically. And so I took a break, and I got into acting, which would be a different episode. But many years later, I started to hear music again. And through that time, between that silence, I kind of went through a lot of emotional changes and went through heavy therapy, dealt with a lot of father stuff, family stuff. So I still wanted to write on my own. So I went away to a writing retreat and set myself goals. And I said, I need to come back home with, 10 stems, a verse and a chorus. I don't need them finished. I just want to be in the space and be in the headspace and give myself the fighting chance to be there. Because I felt like I was in limbo and I didn't know where it was. And so came home with a bunch of stems. It was great. I wasn't done writing, but the difference was something had changed in that I didn't want to write by myself anymore. I wanted someone else in the room, for both accountability and to be less painful. Because I think writing alone was a very painful thing, both sitting in the songs themselves and isolation just itself is hard. And so um, uh, I was just learning to listen. I was learning to be a friend, learning to connect with other humans, finally. This was leading me to wanting a co-writer. And so I kind of wrote with a number of people to see who might be a good fit. And I found my co-writer that is just like when we work together, when you write with somebody, you kind of have a, a like a high frequency that you hope to use in that space. You kind of write, and there's like the synergy that happens, and you just hope that you can stay in that space for a long time. And I think what was good for us was that we were in that place for a really long time. We were able to work together for many hours on end and never feel like we needed a break. And um, we could we both thought very similar ways. And um, he never held a guitar. Like, he always had paper and pen, because he was able to see from a higher zoomed out point of view. And so it was always me generating, which was great. It was just like the perfect way to, like, I was writing all this stuff and he would squiggle notes and basically ask me to try reorganizing things or adding, subtracting. And so once that big chunk was done, now you're talking another year, right, of writing with him. And then I didn't know what to do. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? I didn't know what sound this was going to be, because I didn't want to be what I always was, right? I was trying to step outside of myself a bit, because I wanted to move on to the next thing. And I knew that it was a next thing. I just didn't know what it was. And so then another group of, good luck and connections, I landed on a friend of a friend of a friend who um, I just contacted and was like, hey, I'm interested in the work that you've done. Could we talk? And I met them. There's like this is like a production duo. And I met them at a coffee shop, and we just dorked out, and it was so fun, and we were weird together, and we just got along. And I think that's the thing, more than working on the music that feels right. It was like, how do we jive? How do we have a similar language, who we are as people,
Yeah.
and it's so important. And they're both just like music nerds, uh, and really loving people. And so I just ended up saying, hey, how about I pick a song, we just work on this song kind of as an audition for both of us, because who knows, I can be a horrid person to work with, because I'd never been in this space before, so I don't know who I am. And so there was a lot of just testing the waters for me to see like where my voice was. And so and as we kept going, we just worked really well together. And so that trio, then it was me, Sophocles, and Maxwell, the two producers. Then we started to have like our own little language that we could find. And after the first song, I just was like, let's do the album. And the process took about a year, and a full 2 years really. And it was deeply like focused, but improvisational. And they allowed me really to dream up my sound. Like, I wasn't going by what I was able to do. It was everything I didn't know how to do, I could dream up, and they would just make it happen for me.
Neat.
Great.
Gave you the room to discover a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
So for the benefit of our singing audience here, would you have any particular advice for somebody beginning as a singer? Like some things that save them time in the long run?
Okay, yes. So there's a couple of things. The first thing that pops in my mind is that, first of all, I'm not the best singer you ever hear. There will always be someone, better than you. There will always someone that is more technically well equipped, because I am not that person. But I will say that it takes time to find the way to use your voice that really lets it shine. And I will honestly say that the first album did not do that. My first album didn't do that for me. I think there's always a desire to kind of show it off technically. And that's what I did with my first album. But now I'm in a place where it's in the art of subtraction. It's how do you take away all of that and really just get back to the humanity of your voice. Like where does that lie? And for me, it's talking to someone as if I really loved them. Like that's where I kind of go by.
In your delivery, you imagine that in your delivery?
Yeah, because you talk differently, when you speak with someone that you really care about, and you use that voice is very intimate, and it's rare to hear from a stranger. And I think that's the kind of space that people recognize, even if they don't know you. They know that that's where you are, and I think that draws them in because it's such a elusive and beautiful space to be in. And so um, at this point, this album sounds vocally different for me from my first album. I'm just not pushing.
I think I reviewed that first album, and I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where I've never heard you say that before, but I think that's what I've been trying to form in my mind, because when I do listen to you as a singer, there's something about it that just silences what's around me. I go in a bubble and I just lean in, and like I think that's a beautiful way of saying how to do that, because that's not really like a textbook thing where you say put your teeth together, blow up,
Yeah.
it's not like a technical thing. It's a soul searching matter. And I think that's the difference between great singers and good singers, is that or compelling singers and just people singing, is that they have this they've been through their own little ring of fire of who they are about it. More honest about what you're saying, I mean, that makes sense. Like, why is Bob Dylan a great singer? He's not a great singer, but he's one of the
That's
world's
right.
most listened to great singers. And it's because he understands his thing,
Yeah.
and sells it. So
Yeah.
now you have done some stuff in the theater. Please tell us a little bit about that, the productions you've been in, and then your role in those productions.
Awesome. Um, so while I was taking a break from music, I went into acting a little bit, and there were plenty of auditions that I bombed. It was great.
Real quick, did your parents approve of
learning.
that too?
Okay,
I had to go there. I had to go there. I'm a wise guy. You know that about me.
Thank
All
you,
right,
thank
sorry.
you.
Go ahead.
And so I think one of the first productions I was in was in LA, when this Courage Ensemble that I'm actually a part of now, they did this ridiculous show by the same guys who wrote Book of Mormon. And it's one of their first shows. And it's the same kind of humor, genuine, like ridiculous uh, humor, and is so great. And my usefulness came in the music and the acting part of it. I was able to I just have I hoard weird instruments, just like coconut cups as a horse. I was doing some Foley for them, basically. And that kind of opened my eyes to like where I could be in the musical world, which is fun. And then a few years later, I got an email from sort of the premier Asian American theater asking me if I would be interested in helping develop the show called Cambodian Rock Band. And Cambodian Rock Band is written by Lauren Yee, who's a fantastic playwright. And so it's a play with music that is Cambodian rock, which is a very specific Western influenced but Cambodian sounding rock. And very unique sound. And they wanted Asian American actors who can play instruments and act. And when you put those two things together, it dwindles down to maybe like 5 of us. And so my skills fit the job, and I ended up helping them develop the show that first premiered in Orange County at South Coast Repertory, which was great. It went really well. And it got picked up to go to Oregon Shakespeare Festival. So that's where I was in 2019 for the entire year.
Mhm.
And then 2020, at the beginning, we were at off Broadway at Signature Theater in New York. And so I've been moving with the show. And as we kept going, it's a fictitious band in the show. And when you are in a band together, really for that long, show or not, you have a dynamic of the band. And so we would just end up working really well together. We learned to read each other like a real band. And so it didn't really, it kind of came together on its own, but I have become since then an arranger on the show and an actor, and I play keys and percussion on the show.
Awesome.
And that's the last thing I did before COVID hit.
Now, do you think, do you have anything brewing in the future in the theater realm?
So I think that show, because it ended so abruptly, there are some plans for it in the future that I don't know about yet.
Right,
They
it
haven't
didn't
told
appear
us.
to be finished with the run. Like, actually, didn't you just kind of get underway in New York when?
It had just started for a week and a half. It just opened, and then I was throwing clothes into my luggage to go home
Mhm.
when Broadway shut down. And so I think there are some plans to finish the run, maybe, I don't know. And I think it's at some point slated for California. So
Nice, nice.
we don't know. Yeah, but it's been life changing. I think one of the things I will say is that doing uh, drama acting has changed my songwriting, and it was in the acting that really gave me a sense of empathy,
Sense of what?
exercising empathy,
Empathy.
exercising empathy in places that I hadn't had to do it before as a musician. um, yeah, but
Good. Okay, let's see. What else we got here? So how is the COVID era? Has it been a deterrent? Has it been an opportunity maker?
So it has been a deterrent because, and I believe my reasons are sound, that the 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 2 years prior, I had been working the hardest I had ever worked in my life. I can't remember a time when I was mixing a record, and I was in Ashland doing Cambodian rock band. I was performing 5 to 6 days a week, like 6 to 7 shows a week. And Mondays on my day off, I jump on call long distance with Sophocles and Maxwell for 8 hours mixing the record. And I was just doing every Surija thing when I wasn't doing Cambodian rock band thing. And so I was tired. And then we moved to New York to be in New York. I was still tired because I had to prep for the album release in April. And I was there this time last year in New York, right? So like January, February, New York, I was releasing the album April, working with publicists, working with like promotion designs. And once I came back, like, so COVID, came back, and I jumped in full ship onto releasing the album. Released that album, and then a Cambodian rock band had an album that we had to release, et cetera, et cetera. And by the time, I think I was still working all the way through June, July. Once July hit, I remember there was like a week where I just didn't get out of bed. I was so tired, and in many ways, I think I was really burnt out. And the burnout is one of those things where you can't just take a day off. A day is a quick neosporin on the wound, and
Yeah.
you keep scratching the wound. You know what I mean? It doesn't work like that. And so I think like in some ways I really needed a full like break from just the work. And so last year, 2020, well, I did not produce very much. I released the album, and I made some videos for it. But outside of that, I really just wanted to rest. I came back to LA wanting to kind of live, back in life a little bit. And so had to find another way to channel it. I started hiking a lot. Um, and nature has really become a friend. So that's been good. So I'm feeling a little more generative now that a new year has hit. And, hope is in the air again, even though LA is just a mess right now with COVID.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it feels more hopeful, and there's an end in sight, which is helpful. I think when we couldn't see it, it was hard. So um, yeah, I'm feeling more. I'm feeling a little bit more pep in my step.
Good.
Hopefully,
I like
yeah.
it.
Got myself a new shirt.
Oh, the shirt, girl.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. Well, very good. There you have it, folks. This is Jane Louie right here in 3D. You get to see her for yourself. And it's been a marvelous time visiting with you.
It's so good
Tell,
to
Jane,
talk to you.
thank you. Tell everybody where we can visit you and stay in touch.
Yeah, I am on Instagram and Facebook mostly.
Mhm.
I am on Surija.com, and a lot of my work and some merchandise are on Bandcamp. I think it's Suraya.bandcamp or something like that.
All right. Oh, wait, we have Soraya spelled right on the bottom. Go like this so that we can
Awesome.
see it there. Anyway.
Suraya.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, folks, for watching. You're here today with Jane Louie here on Making Music Magazine. Thanks to our producer, Paula, for making the show go. And if you had a good time, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, stay in touch, write us, follow us on all our channels. We're everywhere all the time. And have a great day. Keep playing, keep practicing.